Hello everyone, my name is Art and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be taking a look at the 154-piece War Machine Mech Armor set from LEGO Marvel. This is set number 76277. It's meant for ages 6 and up, and is part of the Infinity Saga line, which is a bit odd for these mechs. They're sort of in their own just Marvel category usually, and you get 3 of them. It's been for a while. This year's 2. One's an Infinity Saga set, and one's a Spider-Man set that has 2 minifigures. It's sort of weird this year when it comes to these mechs. But this is one that I think is very good. You're getting an exclusive War Machine minifigure, which is really cool. That's always, I think, a highlight of these mechs, is usually the exclusive characters, along with a mech that I think really fits. Of course, War Machine just sort of fits the idea of a mech, and this is probably one of the better LEGO Marvel mechs that I've seen, and I think the minifigure is well done, and it's just a very solid mech. It's sort of a bit weird as it's under Infinity Saga, considering the outfit really doesn't remind me anything from a War Machine MCU outfit, but the mech has the limited posability, I would say, of the newer joint mechs that you saw originally introduced with LEGO Ninjago, and at this point is the mech joint for really any smaller mid-sized mech like this. The Evo joints are just one piece. You don't have any movement in the knees or the elbows, but you do have articulation at the shoulders, nothing at the wrists for these particular mechs. A little bit at the hips, but it does snap off with how sort of wide those are. It's sort of just, that's pretty much your maximum. At the ankles, you do have a bit of articulation as well. These feet are the same design as really any other mech's feet that I've seen for these LEGO Marvel ones. I think there's actually some good amount of detail on this with the gunmetal gray, dark bluish gray, and light bluish gray color that these mechs, or this particular War Machine mech, has. It has a lot of play features, stud shooters on each hand. I think the cord there along adds some nice detail to it, the stud shooter at the top. A printed piece arc reactor right at the front, which is nice. The middle section is held in with these little pieces, which I think adds some cool detail to it. There's some articulation at the hips, which is of course going to be limited by this cord piece, but really isn't all that much of an issue, and you really have a lot of movement there. There's some nice detailing throughout the arms. Going around the back, there actually is, it's finished. You know, usually with these things you see the underside of studs, whereas this one is finished because it sort of has that back piece connected with that cord. And one thing about this mech, I think it's very substantial. I think with a lot of the mechs, they're sort of flimsy, they can break easily. I think this one can hold up to the play that it's meant to. I think it's very substantial. It actually feels like you're getting a decently sized set. It's not just for the minifigure here. I think you're actually getting a sizable thing that feels like something you could have in a LEGO Marvel scene. And of course, War Machine with a mech sort of makes sense. And I think there's a decent amount of detailing here. So I'll take a look at the minifigure outside the mech, just give you a closer look at that, because of course that is a pretty big highlight for this set. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on it. So here is the War Machine minifigure. I think it's a good looking War Machine minifigure. It's sort of, it almost reminds me of a more comic book style of a character, just with the different colored arms, plain arms. You've got 3 main colors here, the gunmetal gray, the light bluish gray, and then the dark bluish gray hands with the red accents for the arc reactor and the eyes of the helmet. This is using the newer Iron Man helmet, which is a 2-piece helmet, but is very flat at the front. It's sort of a mix of the original one, which was a very nice and detailed Iron Man helmet, and it was just perfect. Then they released the 1-piece helmet, which stopped you from having that flicking up the features, seeing the figure's face. And now you sort of have a mix of the two, where you have the very flat front, but you do still have the two-piece helmet. It's not as good as the original one, but I think it's an improvement on the second variation of an Iron Man helmet, and it's an alright helmet. It's not my favorite, but it still looks alright. There's some nice printing on this helmet. I think that's nice. There's some detailing along the back. The back torso printing is nice. The torso printing there is nice. There's some toe, hip, and leg printing, which is all nice. There's the minifigures' faces with Rhodey. Nothing there, so you don't have like the red screen face print, which would have been a nice inclusion. This figure does include a hairpiece, which is a nice accent that they've been adding to some of these Mech characters. I know they had it with T'Challa a couple years ago when they released that Black Panther Mech. Yeah, it's a very solid minifigure. I think it's one of, maybe not the best War Machine minifigure, but of course we've gotten a few lately with the Armory, along with the one that came in the Bricktober pack, which, will that really ever get topped? Probably not, unless they release one in a CMF series. This is a solid War Machine minifigure, different enough than the others where I feel like it's worth it to go out and get this one. You know, you have War Machine, who has very similar outfits. It's not like Iron Man, where there's a decent amount of variation in them, where War Machine's outfits are very similar, I feel, and a lot of the minifigures are very similar, except of course the original, which was gray. But all the newer ones in the black, the gunmetal gray colors are very similar, where I feel like this one is different enough that it makes sense to go out of your way to get this if you want to have multiple of this character. And of course this is the cheapest version I feel like we've gotten in an actual retail set ever, probably, for War Machine. So yeah, it's a nice minifigure and I quite like it. I think the War Machine Mech Armor is a very solid Lego Marvel set. I think it was a good set for January. Of course, we've gotten these mechs in January for a while, and this might actually be my favorite one. I think, along with the Iron Man ones, because I just love the Iron Man minifigures, and I think the ones that come in those are always really nice, especially being that except for I guess the first one, but the second one was exclusive. The War Machine minifigure here I think is really nice, and one thing about this mech that I think you don't really get with a lot of them is that it's quite substantial. Now, some might look at this mech and look at the one right across from it, released the same time, and you might not think you get as much value here, because the Venom one, of course, has a Miles Morales minifigure. You're getting Venom and Miles Morales. Now, I think the quality of those minifigures is a bit lacking. The Venom is pretty close to perfect at this point. They keep releasing the same one because there's really not much you can do. The Miles, on the other end, is a downgrade. He doesn't have the dual molded legs as the one that released in the mech, as well as several other versions of that hooded Miles Morales. So personally, I think the quality that you're getting out of this one War Machine minifigure is worth the same as the two minifigures that I would say are of lesser quality with the Venom mech. The thing that impressed me about this mech is the substantialness of it. It is a substantial mech. It's built up. It's a big and bulky, sizable, small mech. It's a very well done Lego Marvel mech. I think it's one of the best that I've seen. I think it's going to hold up to play. It seems pretty strong. And of course, it has a lot of play functions. You've got 3 stud shooters on here. You can move it around. I'd say there's enough articulation on here that you can really get a good amount of play out of this, as it's meant to. And for those who just want to collect it for the minifigure, I'm sure there are many of those, and I am one of those. I think it's cheap enough that you can get that, as well as getting a mech that is a decent thing and I think could fit in a Lego Marvel scene. And I think it's a very solid Lego Marvel set. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.